Do you know whatever happened to that boy, how his life is now? Do you still work as a nurse? Yeah, I'm still a psych nurse. I don't know. He was in jail like for a couple of short stints, I believe, but that was a long time ago. I don't know now. So I just know that he had the Department of Family and Children's Services had taken the recommendation of the treatment center because they had a sober living home for him to stay at for a year. He would have likely never ended up in jail because it's what he wanted. He wanted to get everything together, but you can't in that system because they don't want you to. It's just the truth. People just assume that these children's services, that they're there to protect the children. They're not. They're not. I mean, that's what I struggled with. That's because I thought, am I really seeing this right? I mean, it's not like I just thought this one day. There was tons of evidence besides just him, and what happened. And what I failed to mention, but I have mentioned this before, they know they did wrong because after they did what they did to him, they bribed him. Yeah. They bought him an iPod. They gave him benzos. Yeah. And of course legal, because the nurse that did it to him was an NP, so she could prescribe something or get the doctor to. Yeah, he's getting uptight. But he was there for substance abuse. She knows she caused the trauma. She knows she caused the rage. Because he knew she was using him to try to go after me for something. He just didn't understand. He didn't know anything about the union or any of that. So, she caused him stress, anxiety, and of course rage. And she caused him trauma. She showed exactly what a bad nurse looks like. So because she did that, yeah, they went and bought him new clothes. They brought him in outside food. We wouldn't bring in outside food in, not unless it was like their birthday, and then I would do it. But that was usually he could get whatever outside food he wanted. He got an iPod, he got books, and he got benzos. He wrote it down too. He said, they gave me these things to keep me calm because they were the ones that caused it. They caused him to, they deliberately provoked him. I mean, she probably didn't want to provoke him, but she was probably, I imagine she was panicking because she then had to make the case. Because quite frankly, if they had really believed I had done something, that what they had accused me of, then they would have had already talked to the boy. They didn't. They only said it because they wanted me to quit. It's true. It's the exact same thing I said that happened to me. I ran into the assistant chief nursing officer like 3 years later at a different job. She was an educator, and she was in the med cart, in the med Pyxis, and she has no business being in there. She doesn't have any patients, but she was, and then the count was off. Well, that was all designed because I had been speaking up about safety on the unit, actually a specific safety, in this, not at this same place, somewhere else. So I when I saw her in there, I knew she was up to no good. By the end of the day, they're calling me in the office and telling me that, almost accusing me that I took med out of there, and I didn't. Like, it always, whenever a med count is off, it falls on the person that was in that drawer, that specific count before, and the one that came in after. So she was in there in the middle of that, or before that, and they wanted to say, no, I'm going to have to go on suspension while they investigate, but they weren't going to put the other nurse on. Because I'm like, well, then we were both in that, and I knew it was her, but it wouldn't have done me any good. So I had said, you know what, forget this. I know what you're doing. And so they had the sheet ready for me to resign right then and there with HR in the room. So they know when they want, they're just dirty. That's how Illinois is. So, and I knew who this woman was because she was the same woman that looked me in the eye and accused me of something that she knows 100% wasn't true, but she was a psychopath. She totally was. Like, it's almost like she enjoyed it. But she's the sweetest thing. Yeah. So, as far as like this OSHA thing, I mean, the former chief nursing officer, she may have just filed the complaint because the facility was known for, it would get violent. But I think they love that. I think the people at the top, they love that because then, like, they don't want the community to know, but they certainly don't want to fix it because there's tons of ways to fix it. They don't want to. There really is. For the most part, I kept a pretty safe unit. I didn't have any riots on my shift. But I always knew when I come in the next morning and I'd hear there was a riot, and one time a kid got tased in the quiet room. I mean, because when it turns into a riot, usually the police had to be called in and to calm everything down. So, but usually, really, it was because it was staff from another unit, and they were staff that shouldn't be working with patients. But like I said, I think these people go out of their way to put people in place and protect people that are agitating towards patients, because I've seen it too often at too many places. Like when Northwestern wants to keep an employee that dragged a kid by the gown, like that's across the room, that's a total ligature risk, like the neck. That's a big deal in psych. But is dragging a kid across the room because he's not behaving. That's not a nurse, but just somebody, and yet that's not one of many incidences, and yet the hospital wants to protect that employee, but say everybody else is targeting, then you know that the heads of these institutions, they're up to no good. I've seen it far too many times. Because there's, like I said, all of this stuff, there's easy solutions to it. But there won't be as long as the people in leadership remain in place, because they'll justify their actions. That chief nursing officer, I'm sure the rest of her career never cared at all what she did, because she justified it that I'm protecting the boy. I have to find out because he was off the unit. Yeah, and every staff member took patients off the unit. They did. To the gym, to the cafeteria, upstairs, to the conference room. Everybody, it did, techs, nurses. But in this specific case, for whatever reason, it was made into this huge deal, and then so much so that they interrogated the kid for 2 days. And the thing is, they didn't do this with other employees. They didn't. There was always accusation, and no accusation was made. That's the thing too. No patient complained. The kid didn't go and say, I did something. No. But when they started trying to make it to him that I did, that's what set him off. He knew I was trying to help him. I had started him on the first 3 steps of AA, because we were hoping he would get into the 28-day program, which he did. And then he went there, and the therapist said, boy, you're way far ahead. Because I'm like, as long as he's just waiting around, he's going to get some stuff done. Work on these 3 steps, write about him. So, and I would tell him to share it with me. Yeah, it was being a psych nurse. Not that the chief nursing officer would recognize that, but just nobody thought that, it's like nobody wanted to bring this up to anybody. And the fact that they bribed him was the very biggest thing of all. Because they don't just bring clothes in for kids. Are you kidding me? Especially leadership? No way. They don't bring outside food in for anybody. Not unless it's a birthday. They certainly don't give anybody an iPod. Not back then, they didn't. Maybe they do it today. I doubt it. The state's cheap. But they knew they messed up. They did. And they knew that other staff saw how much they messed up. She was a chief nursing officer, a forensic nurse who was so high and mighty and glory in herself and her NP license that she just figured, no, I can get away with this. I have to do this for his safety. Well, she didn't do a very good job keeping him safe. But everybody around me, nobody felt like it was enough to maybe stand up and say, no, what you did was emotional abuse. Because they all protected each other. And then after that, I just realized it's like if you do the right thing, you run the risk of being a target. I hate to say that, but that's been my experience in nursing.